Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Travel and Shit, where I, your host, D. Carey, have an experiential conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. And I've been doing so much better about getting to the point. But as I always like to mention, when I have a beautiful face join me, the podcast is also available on the YouTubes. So feel free to type it in your web bar and however you get to the app, and watch our beautiful faces as you listen to us. So to the beautiful face that is joining me today, my dear Lisa, thank you so much for joining me. If you would please introduce yourself to the good people.
Sure. My name is Lisa Robertson, and I'm a mom of three and also the owner and founder of I Am Yogi Studios. On January 25th, I would love to introduce myself as the first Black owned, woman owned hot yoga studio in Queens.
All the sound effects. Oh, wait, sometimes it does thumbs ups on here. I don't know.
Put it,
Sometimes it works. I don't know. I
it's
said I was going to
okay.
figure out how to turn it off. Girl, don't know. But I am so, first of all, so now that we've officially begun, let me just give you your flowers. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. I have enjoyed seeing you grow this business from the ground up all of these years and to see how far you have come resiliently. You have continued to flourish and you have been so graceful through all of it. There has never been a single class where you have let whatever is going on in life affect any of us on
Uh-huh.
those mats. So I grew up with Lisa. We used to dance together at the MCD.
MCG.
Um, and I would say it was during COVID. Um, Lisa started doing yoga in the park by me. And so it was like, all right, it's outside, pull up. And so it was so nice. Now, mind y'all, I am very Black, if you sure we're sure by now. But I've tried yoga. I remember like the first time, at least the first time I can remember trying yoga that wasn't like online, may have been with like what was that? It was like a gym that I had gone to. And I think I tried like a Pilates class and like a yoga class. And it was cute, but it just didn't resonate because the instructor did not resonate with me. And so it just didn't necessarily it didn't stick. And so then I remember a couple of years after that, I ended up having another homegirl of mine. I want to say, I see her face. I think it's Chanel or something, but she had done a class like all the way in Manhattan, someplace. And that class was like, oh, okay, so it's the instructor. That's what makes the difference for me. If I don't hear myself in you, I'm tuning you out and I am not like, it's not connecting for me. And so when Lisa started doing the classes in the park, it was like, okay, this is something that can stick. And so I started in the park and then we moved to the studio on Rockaway. And I was so committed for so long. And then I had surgery. And so then I kind of popped out. But it has also been another blessing to be able to do this with my mom. Y'all, my mom is almost 70. Okay. You hear me? And baby girl, hey, Ma, so proud of you.
Me
So
too.
proud of you.
Me
It has
too.
been such a blessing to have this experience with the three of us because my mom used to also be our dance instructor and my girl's doing the headstands. I cannot. Um, and so it just is such an enjoyable experience to be able to experience this with my community and my community. And it's not that they just look like me, but it's like these are women that live in my neighborhood. And it feels so and I've lived here and grew up in this same neighborhood. So it feels good to know other people who don't live too far away, to know your neighbors, but then to know them in this intimate space that we are able to share with you. And I have told you before, but this is such important work and you are doing it so well for so many of us. So I really want you to understand how grateful I am
Mm,
to you to be able to share that with us. So we'll
thank
start there with the little with the feels.
thank you. I
Um,
appreciate that, Dee.
so we will begin with how did you begin with yoga? Like, what was your introduction to yoga and why bring that to the rest of us?
So it's important. This story, a lot of women would say, why would you share it? But I think it's important to share because one, sharing, there's healing in sharing. And then two, I think many of us that start yoga come from the same type of birth, right? So I was 4 months pregnant with my second child and I fell into a depression. Now, you don't know you're depressed until someone is trying to diagnose you, right? So I was hospitalized twice. And
Oh,
it's funny
wow.
because we were speaking about Dominique. Dominique actually had to come and get me from work. I passed out and all kind of stuff.
Mm. Hey,
And
Dom.
right, shout out to Dom. And the doctor was like, okay, this cannot keep happening. It was anxiety, it was stress,
Mhm.
it was just me in a very pivotal time in my life, right? Being in your 30s, not really sure what you're going to do in your career. These mental things put so much stress on your body. Now being pregnant, stress on the baby. So my doctor said, hey, you got to try some yoga, some therapy, or you're hospitalized, right? There's a possibility you can lose the baby.
Mm.
And I had to make a decision for me and my child. And I started yoga and I did yoga. It's funny because that was in 2019, and that was the first time I ever stepped on a yoga mat in
Mm.
2019 with my 4 month, my baby, right? Baby in my belly. And I did yoga until the day I gave birth. And now the rest is her story, right? Like that's the first time I stepped on the mat. So it was literally through um I would say rock bottom. I had to hit rock bottom to kind of birth something more beautiful. And yoga was the way that I did that.
What has your yoga journey been like for you? I know that I start, tap off, start, tap off. I'm not exactly consistent. How did you stay consistent with it? And what did that process look like from where you are today to where you started?
Well, to be honest, and in your but how should I say, in your defense, I had no choice, right? I turned my passion into purpose into profit. So this was something that I had no choice but to do. And I noticed when I did kind of shift and start healing everybody else through movement and teaching, you can feel the difference. Like
Mm.
there's a disconnect between the instructor and the student. So whenever there's a disconnect and I have no more to offer, it is a reminder, I should say, get back to your personal practice. But now I'm at a point where because I have so much on my plate as a mom of three now, and then a business owner and an entrepreneur, because I don't just stay in the studio, there has to be some give and take. So that moment is for me to, yeah, yoga is something that is first and foremost. If I'm not right, all the things
Hmm.
that's attached to me cannot be right.
So what does your personal practice look like? Do you start every day with yoga, or is it something that you tend to, now that you are doing a lot of the background work also with it being a business and not just a practice, like it is a practice on top of a practice, if you will. What does your personal practice of it look like?
Yeah, so my personal practice every morning is like a prompt, like a journal prompt.
Mm.
do daily devotions. I do meditation, and in my meditation is prayer, so I get closer to God in that space. I do breath work, and that allows me to see how I'm feeling for the day. Now, physical movement I do 3 times a week. I do hot yoga 3 times a week. Um, and that is enough. That is literally enough. I don't have to do it every day because that is the detox that I need. And then that's it. And I would say more and more being practicing those other things of enlightenment. And I get that from my community, just staying in the studio practicing. My role or my assignment is to be a healer. So yeah, I mean, yeah, my personal practice is just that. I would
Okay.
say like my morning rituals or, however I do that, and then 3 times a week.
All right. So I did a quick little cursory Google, if you will,
Mhm,
about yoga and the different regions, because I know for even as something as simple as like rice, right? Different regions do rice differently. Everybody culturally has their own flavor to a particular thing. So outside of like where yoga began and who started the yogas and all of that kind of book stuff that you can kind of
mhm,
again the Googles. Um and I will say that I also hate when people say to Google something, because Google is quite trash and it will give you different results. So I don't mean it in a condescending, go do your Google research kind of thing. I just mean that that's not exactly what this conversation is about. You feel me, audience?
mhm, mhm.
Because I care. Um, but so This one little article popped up. It'll be in the description box, but it is what is the most popular type of yoga and how can you practice it safely? So, safety aside, they had a cute little chart here that has like the type of yoga and then like the most interested country and like the things, the locations where the difference are practiced. Let me start off by saying there are so many different types of yoga. So, what type of yoga do you practice? Like, what do you have the most experience with? And then what do you actually teach?
So, what, okay, the question is most experience and what do I teach? But I want to pause for a second.
Hmm.
So, yoga is not, I'm just going to try to unravel a little bit of misconception. Yoga movement is a Western thing, Westernized thing. Yoga is a lifestyle. So, it's
Okay.
not necessarily like, oh, I need to do yoga. Let me get on the mat. You do yoga when you're just meditating. You do yoga when you're mindful in regards to what you're eating, right? How do you speak to someone? How do you think, right? These are
Mm,
all different things. So there's 8 laws or 8 sutras, we call it, of yoga. And to be honest, only 3 or 4 of them is what we really practice, or it's something that you can actually see. The
okay.
others is like more internalized work, right? And then kind of how do you interact with the environment? So it's funny that you speak about the countries and where they're more testy in terms of how could you practice yoga. So to be a yoga practitioner in New York, it's definitely harder to be a yoga practitioner in New York than to in I would say a country that have more environmental bliss, like nature, right? Like
Okay.
clean water, maybe food that's on the trees and vegetables and X, Y, and
Okay.
Z. That's the also a very mindful way of living, right? Using herbs in a holistic way to cleanse and cure your body or heal. But we don't have access or easy access. It's not as
Mhm.
accessible in New York. So just to kind of break that misconception, yoga is a lifestyle, a more
Mhm.
healthy approach to living. But and now I think when you talk about how many different styles of yoga, it's hard for me to answer that question because I come from or I study a lineage of that's not yoga, like all these different
Okay.
styles of yoga, right? There's mainly Ashtanga, but Ashtanga is doing 8 laws of yoga.
Okay.
And it's not only involving movement, you know?
Hmm. Okay.
So, and I would say the 8th law of yoga is enlightenment, which is the crown, and
Mhm.
it's closer to God, and it's how you perceive the world, how you view the world, and that's the last step. Once you get to a blissful state, a peaceful state, an enlightenment state of state of mind, then you have achieved yoga.
Okay.
Does that make sense to
It
some?
does. So do you ever achieve yoga or is that like a consistent life thing?
Well, I think it's a consistent life thing. You can. It's just like everything. You have your ups and your downs. But once again, we don't live a traditional life as what they did when yoga was birthed, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm a mom of 3, right? And I'm a business owner, entrepreneur. I don't really have the luxury to chase the peace, right? I have
Yeah.
to pray for it, but I think it can be achieved in some days, in some way or shape or form. It's easier than others, but it's a battle. It's a fight.
And it
It's a
just might
battle.
look different every day.
Yeah. And it looks different based on who you are as an individual,
Fair.
your environment, the people, your family, your support system, your workload.
Mhm.
Yeah, all these things play is a factor. I would say being a yoga practitioner in New York City, um, it's tough. It's tough, but it's beautiful at the same time, you know.
All right. So you said that you do Ashtanga yoga, right?
Yeah,
So
every yogi does Ashtanga. Now,
okay.
let's move a little bit towards the westernized world where they say, okay, now you have vinyasa, now you have hatha, now you have
Okay.
yin yoga. You have those are the things that was developed and said, okay, we're
Okay.
gonna take it and make it ours, right? So I'm a
Okay.
victim. I fell victim to it, and I enjoy the different aspects of it.
Mhm.
So my experience is in vinyasa, and that's what I love to teach. I teach what I have experience in. Hatha is more of something we do 9 o'clock on Saturdays. I just call
Okay.
it beginner's flexibility because from a naked eye, that's more appealing than saying, hey, come try Hatha yoga. It's like, what's that? But if I put on the schedule beginner's flexibility, everybody's down for it, right?
That's my
Um,
speed.
Yeah, but vinyasa is more of my style of teaching. And it's because it's more of like a workout, it gets the heart going. It's more, you
Hmm.
build endurance and
Is that
stamina.
the
And
10
that's,
o'clock class?
yes, yes,
Hmm.
it is.
Hmm.
But that's
It's
what I
fun,
need.
but
It's fun.
it's work.
It'll whip your tail, but it's fun.
Yeah, it do.
But and I think it depends on what type of physical exertion you need to
Hmm.
feel good, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I need to get my heart going and pumping and moving fast and sweating, and I need to carry on like that in order to feel good for the day, you know? And
Hmm.
it's a science to it. The more it's a detox, right? The more you sweat, the
Yeah.
more you move, the more you flex, you get stronger, you're breathing more because you're fighting for your life, right?
Yeah.
So afterwards
God
you
damn.
just feel invigorated. So I enjoy that type of style of yoga, and because I know what that feels like, that's why I teach that style of yoga.
Okay. So if you could go over or like review the 8 principles, I'm curious about what those are now.
Okay, so let me pull it up because I don't have them on top, but I'm gonna do my best, right?
Hmm.
So the first two, niyamas and yamas, is be mindful of the people around you and be good to yourself. So it's almost like that community contract, that social contract. How do you
Okay.
interact with the world? And then how do you treat yourself, right? Being
Hmm.
kind to yourself, even like like self love.
Gotcha.
Be good to yourself and be good to others. Those are the first two. Then you have pranayama. Are you
Hmm.
breathing?
Okay. That's where I fuck up the most.
No, sorry, there's an update. So would you like, yeah, are you breathing? That's pranayama. Then is asana. So
Hmm.
let me pull back. Pranayama is different techniques, is breathing techniques that the outcome is different results. So if you
Okay.
breathe a little, just to kind of give you surface level,
Yeah, yeah.
you breathe fast, you get energy. You breathe slow, you relax. So there's different techniques of breathing exercises that
Hmm.
you can use to get the end result,
And I'm gonna
depending on
pause
what
you
you're trying
there
to achieve. Yeah.
only because that is to your point of yoga being something that you do on and off the mat and you do in different aspects of life, like especially for like anxious travelers, or even if you're not an anxious traveler, when shit goes wrong. Like you've been on this tarmac for 45 minutes now and you've got a connecting flight that you're going to have to take. It might be useful to start with relaxing, and then before you start to disboard, like what do you put it, disembark or get off the fucking plane, you might want to hit them quick breaths so that you could make it to your destination without being completely winded and out of breath. So I like that you corrected me earlier and reminded me, as you've mentioned in class plenty of times, but now it's like actually resonating that yoga also happens off the mat and
Oh
in
yeah.
life. And so I know that that was a really good reminder for me. So thank you to consistently use my breathing. Breath work is really one of those things that I have to personally get better at because I find that that is the first thing that I stop thinking about when it come like when my different stress levels and
Yeah.
things find themselves in disarray, if you will. Not necessarily always a stressful situation, but like in terms of okay, you're putting together. We're having a dinner party on Saturday, so it's like okay, yeah, I need this, I need this, I got to get this. Like, girl, calm down. You don't
Yeah.
need to spend
Yeah.
money on everything. Take a breath. What do we need? What do we have? Reassess what's going on and just clear eyes. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Go
But
ahead.
well, yeah, I'll continue in just a second, but I want to pinpoint something. So when you're in classes, when you're taking classes, I don't like to call it class because
Hmm.
taking yoga classes and then having a practice is two different things. You can take a
Okay.
yoga class and feel good for the second, but when you have a practice, right? Like for example, you are traveling. When you have a consistent practice, it's almost habitual. You know what to do whenever you feel a certain way. You
Uh,
know, oh, I need to breathe here. You know, if you want to feel a certain way, what do you have to do? But I think it's like muscle memory. If you have
mhm.
a practice, it activates immediately.
Copy.
Yes.
Copy.
So that was three. The next one is called asana, and that is movement, and it's called position in life. I like to say that because just because you're having a seat, right? It means asana is translated to seat. It's a Sanskrit word for seat. Now, just because you're in your position doesn't mean that you're fulfilled. You have to be in your
Mm,
position, but what are you doing in that position? You know, are you lengthening?
okay.
Are you rounding? Are you doing, you have to get seated, right? Like you sit on an airplane, you can have a seat, but you got 3 hours to go. How are you going to sit in that seat to feel
Okay.
comfortable? You know what I'm saying? So it's more of like asana is like positioning yourself. I can put you in a downward dog and you can feel very uncomfortable, but the goal of yoga is how can we, you can feel very uncomfortable, I meant to say. But when you're in downward dog, I can put you there. That's your posture, but how do I get you in position?
Okay.
How does this posture allow you to reap the benefits of the posture? The
Mm.
blood flow, the strengthening, you know what I mean? The breath work.
Mhm.
And it's all these different things that come into play so you can actually feel the benefit. And that's when that posture become an actual asana.
Okay.
You know what I'm
Got it.
saying? It's always levels to it. The next thing is called pratyahara. So that's almost like withdrawing from all the senses. So in yoga, we practice the world within. And usually it's what you see on the inside is what come through the lens and reflect on the outside. So we say withdraw from the external world just for a second because you want to build a new world on the inside. So when you open your eyes, you can see the beauty that is coming from within. You know,
Mm.
so it's almost like you and I could be in the same thing and there's a rose there. Let's say I don't want to put that on you. Let's just say me and another character. Because her disposition or because she's not so happy and healthy on the inside, she may not like the way that rose is. You
Okay.
know, it might be a little dirty, like not the right color or whatever.
Mhm.
But let's say for someone like me that practice beauty and light all the time, that is so beautiful to me. No matter how ugly anyone else thinks it is, but it's beautiful to me. So it's funny if you stand next to someone and you're like, okay, what do you see? You can get two different perspectives.
Right.
That's the reflection from within. So whenever we say pratyahara, withdrawing from the external senses, we have to fix what's going on first,
Mhm.
right? It's almost like creating magic, optimism,
Yeah.
like within, so you can see the world in a better place. And to be honest, that law is very powerful because that'll help you propel, like to be optimistic and magical and all those different things. That's what they call delusional now, right? In this day and
Yeah.
age. But sometimes we need a little delusion to kind of help us be a little risky. Your
I
reality
feel
is
you.
what you create. You
Mhm.
know. The another one is dharana and Diana. So Dharana is more of like concentration.
Okay.
And this task I use all the time, especially in this season of me going to the next studio. What you give your attention to and concentrate on, it grows, right? Like you got to
Mhm.
focus. If you want to get better, you will get better, but your attention and your concentration have to be on getting better. So when we're in class and I give them a dristi, which is like eye level posture, what are you focused on? They may be
Yeah.
looking at something, but what they're really focusing on is their breath work and their balance. You know what I mean? And the more and more they practice those things, it gets better. The next thing is dhyana, which is meditation. Meditation is not think of nothing, it's actually think of something. So I always give prompts
Mhm.
as to how we can grow. And then the last one is samadhi, tahiti, which is that crown chakra, that enlightenment. It just means to absorb everything, absorb all the laws. And then when you see, yogis, they're just smiling, they're so bright, so they're just absorbing everything. They're absorbing everything that they practice. And that is the laws of yoga. But remember, I only said asana, which is one, which is movement.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's a lifestyle and the way you approach life and living, like your perspective.
That brought a lot more clarity to the practicing off the mat aspect of it. And I was showing up to class and they have no clue about all the extra pieces.
It
So,
comes. It doesn't come in, and I think that is another key thing. Yoga is more experiential. It's not
mhm.
something you can read and say, "I got it." You have a practice. You may start one. May get like two laws here and there, but the more you practice, it just comes to you because you're being taught without even knowing.
Yes.
Hmm.
And it's funny you say that there because as you were giving the explanations, I could hear you in class saying the
That's the
different things.
goal.
And
Yep.
so it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, she's been saying this the whole time." But it's just like you don't necessarily know what you don't know, and then when the pieces are able to come together, it just makes so much more sense. And I think you explaining this is what I love about travel is that, and I do this every week. It is so much more than vacation because I can make anything a travel conversation.
Hmm.
But your explanations of all, what do you call them? The tenements, the eight
We
tenements of
call it
yoga,
laws
the
of
eight
yoga.
laws, like those laws can absolutely be applied to travel experiences, life experiences, work experiences. And that's why I love doing this show so much, because you can apply so many different things. You can view things through a travel lens and open up your interest level. Like, a lot of times you may not necessarily think you're interested in something
Hmm.
until you give it a lens that you are interested in. And you may not necessarily think that yoga is for you, or you may just look at the movement and think, oh, my body can't do that. But okay, maybe don't start with your body. Maybe start with one of the other laws. And
Yeah,
now you are
yeah,
more open because your mind is thinking of how you can apply it to certain situations. Once you get past the block of this isn't for me, and you've changed your perception of a thing, you may be able to find different ways that it can connect and resonate for you. So,
yeah.
speaking of connecting and resonating, have you ever experienced a movement practice of yoga, if you will, in a different environment that necessarily was better for you, or like didn't? Let me rephrase that. The physical practice of yoga for you, because
Yeah.
it is something that you can do anywhere. And that's another thing that I am very grateful for, those virtual classes, which we will get to soon. But I know that you are a traveler. Have you ever practiced your movement in a place where it just felt so much better? And have you ever practiced your movement in a place where something about the environment was off and you could feel it in your practice? Like, do those things matter to you, like the location or the environment that you're in?
So it doesn't matter to me, because especially after maybe a an airplane, like a flight, I got to get moving. I
Okay.
have to get moving. So it doesn't matter to me. But I will say, in certain areas or countries, you can feel the difference. First and foremost, anything that has anything tropical, any place is tropical and has like that better air quality, maybe a little heat. You know what I mean? And I want you to think of it as science, right? Anything like the heat touches, it warms it up, and I'm moving better. Right. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, I got so much energy. I'm moving better. I like to practice in those spaces. One specific country was St. Martin. Now,
Mm,
when I do travel, most of the time is with the girls, and Dominique specifically, we're like this in terms of like, that's twin, and we always have to find a yoga studio or yoga class.
mm,
And if we do not, I always have a partner to practice on the beach, in the sand, in the water, like, they're on the patio, right? There's always something we could do, and we have to make sure we get it or start the day, no matter what happened the night before, because we know how it's going to set the tone for the rest of
mhm,
the trip. um Another place I would say I practice, I went to Chicago, and it wasn't necessarily something I enjoy it more in that open space, but I remember doing it in like a hotel. And I
mhm,
remember doing it, I'm like, oh, this was so incomplete, but it was something that I had to do. It shouldn't matter. But that was the only place I realized, like, God, I can't wait to
mhm.
you
Get
know what
back
I mean?
outside.
Get back outside. So yeah, I think any country or anywhere you can go where there's like quietness or like a beautiful scenery and better air quality, trees, right?
Yeah.
Greenery. Like those places just already it kind of give you an advantage to do your practice because it starts you from like, a higher level, I should say.
Mhm.
You're prepared. It
Yeah, it's
prepares
just
you.
I personally, I'm an ocean girl. I
Right.
I won't necessarily throw myself all the way. Actually, that's a lie, because I will throw myself in that bitch. But I prefer the ocean to a pool. Pools are communal bathtubs to me. I
Right.
am not really a big fan of that. But just the sound of the ocean and the feel of the sand is so calming to me.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, to your point, just like that change of scenery, putting yourself in a space where you can breathe the fresh air. E- My allergies are just not as oppressive in really tropical areas. It's like where I feel like the air is fresher. You know what I mean? You hit a
Yeah.
beach and it's just like, oh, I can breathe now. Um, so your experiences as a traveler, have you changed your yoga practice at all based on different travels? Like, how has your travel experience changed your or influenced your yoga practice?
So I think this is the part where I say it can't really because remember my yoga practice is more than just movement. So
Hmm.
the moment I open
But
my eyes, I'm
yes.
jumping
So, I
in.
mean, in
Yeah.
terms of being a person that has seen other cultures and that someone that has traveled and experiences life outside of, I don't want to say your bubble because communities are larger than a bubble, but being that you have experienced other communities, do you feel like that has influenced how you practice yoga or how even you interact with your students as an instructor?
Yes, great question. So I would say absolutely yes, because when you step outside the box, it's almost like being a chef and you think that you're like you only have access to these ingredients, but when you go out, you realize it's so much more. So I think the effect it has on me is when I get back home, it's like, all right, y'all, we got so much work to do. You know what I mean? Because you realize that there's a different level of practice, more disciplined level of practice. And as a leader and a healer, that's my job to bring it back to say no, this is the next level, this is what how much more we can do. And especially if I try it out first and I realize like it expedites or it enhances my practice,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm bringing it home and that's it. So I would say traveling for sure has impacted my practice. Oh, I'll tell you one story. One, I was in, like you said, I travel often. I was probably in like the Bahamas and I was practicing, and for some reason, I didn't feel good.
Hmm.
I wasn't up for it. Even the yoga practice, the physical practice, did not feel good. Could you
Okay.
believe that? And then she was the instructor. She was going through the flow, and I'm looking around, and all the girls they're killing it. They achieving what they need to achieve, and it was something mental that it was just blocking me. And she made a statement, and I don't, maybe it was for me, maybe it wasn't for me, but I resonated. She said, "You're taking life too serious."
Mm.
And from that moment, I came back to the States and it was like, calm down, everything is going to be all right, you know. And I flowed a little bit lighter in my practices, in my teaching. I became more graceful. So those gentle reminders, we
Hmm.
think it's not, you know, we think it's not for us, but that I needed to hear that. I'm taking life too serious. And it was probably something going on, probably something with
Yeah.
the business, within me. Yeah, but she said that and that was it.
Okay, so that was a good pivot. What has your experience as an entrepreneur been like? Because now you're traveling from the first brick and mortar, and now you are opening the first Black owned hot yoga studio in
Yeah,
Queens. Round
yeah.
of applause for
Thank
that.
you, right?
What has that transition looked like for you? What has that experience been like?
Oh, can I curse?
Girl, yeah, it's called traveling shit.
It's
And it's
been
me.
shit. It's been shit. And the reason I say that is because first and foremost, I think as a yogi, and this is tough because sometimes my practices as a yogi, I have to like say, okay, this is reality, right? And not saying that the yogic lifestyle is not reality, but it's like I said, being a practitioner in New York with the
Hmm.
bills, if I can go live on a mountain somewhere, I would, right? But I got mortgage and rent and kids and all kind of things, right? So I have to be mindful of my
Yeah,
bills. So being in my first space and not necessarily there was ups and there's downs, but that's the ebbs and flows of business.
yeah.
And there's seasonality in business, right? And you would think these practices shouldn't be seasonal, but they are, because once again, this is something that I'm doing for the community and is not as popular yet in our community. So I like to consider myself a pioneer. I gave myself that title because it's something I'm creating something and I'm holding on to it.
Yeah.
But as going into the second space, this is how it happened, and I want to share this because once again, healing isn't sharing, and also I'm a storyteller, and my points is always embedded in my story. When so I had did a pitch competition, and then I won some money to launch the hot yoga studio, and when in that,
Congratulations on that
thank
because
you,
that's a large undertaking to be able to have
pitch.
the words to express yourself. That is something I struggle with, so I personally understand what that entails. So,
Yeah.
congratulations on that, being able to bring your dream into words for other people to also understand. So,
Yes.
clarity on that.
Thank you. And
Please
not
continue.
only that, I had to have the little button and the little prompts, the little
Yeah.
presentation, and it was nerve wracking, but I did it and I won. But what I would say is there was the the vision was there, but I wasn't able to execute it because there was I would say resistance in,
Mhm.
let's just say, around me. If I could have effectively and seamlessly do it, I would have, but that's just not how the cookie crumbled. So my point is I had now a few months to relocate and to make sure this vision get up and
Yeah.
going. And um it that those 2 months was very difficult. Now, the what I would say is in entrepreneurship, and what you have to understand when stillness needs to happen,
Mm.
because literally I was like, you know what, I've sacrificed so much, and as entrepreneurs we sacrifice so much. We sacrifice sleep, we sacrifice eating, we sacrifice finances, right? If we have families, that's time away from our families, so it's so much
Yep.
sacrificing. And then finally I was blessed to have that time around holiday, and I was like, Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'm going to be more present with my children. And, I have young children. I have a 17-year-old, could you believe that? A 5 year
Mhm.
old and a 2 year old. So I said, let me be more present and enjoy this time. And that's exactly what I did. And I got phone calls and text messages and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not promoting giving up and kind of abandoning your business, but I think sometimes we fight so much when things are not working out. We fight so much to the point where we actually make things worse and dig
Mm.
ourselves deeper. So to step back for a second, a hot second, maybe enjoy life a little bit and then come back with fresh eyes, maybe get some rest, maybe, you know what I mean? Do a detox, a
Sure do.
cleanse.
Sure do.
But I think taking a step back and finding stillness in the things that make you happy, because when you are happy, when you are at peace, you make better decisions and they come to you and you attract abundance and, the law of attraction. And so I think entrepreneurs, we are so like, we got to make the money. We got to get it. We got to stay until the point where we have lost the vision
Mm.
and lost the passion. And it took me 2 months to step back, and I still showed up for my classes. I still showed up and
Mhm.
taught, teach, because that's my passion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, if I can just teach in beautiful countries and not have no overhead, I would surely do that. But I have overhead, so I had to keep showing up. But I had to take a break, and to be honest, that break I thought would have cost me a lot. I thought it would have. It cost me some money, but it didn't cost my health and my peace, I should say.
Mhm.
And then yeah, I would say it's a week later, I got back, rolled my sleeves up and I went out there, and it's just like everything was right there. I
Mm.
needed money and I opened up a fundraiser and then it started coming in. I found my location and everything is going so well now. But 2 months, it was like, I would say the last 3 to 4 months, it was like, what the hell is this? What is
Yeah.
going on? So that's been my journey in entrepreneurship. And it's always ups and downs. It's always in and outs. It's always, especially if you have employees, you have to deal with other people and their problems and their emotions. And it's
Yeah.
so much in place. So I think entrepreneurs, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Be still when you have to. And if you hit rock bottom, always remember, usually right before a breakthrough is rock bottom. So don't
Yeah.
give up. Don't give up yet. Especially if you're at rock bottom, don't give up. You work too hard and sacrifice too much. And find a great support system, because, like I said, Dominique pulls me and was like, hey, we got to go dress shopping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's my advice for entrepreneurship.
And that was another perfect segue. You also empower other women to tap into their gifts and to their talents as being leaders and practitioners and instructors. How has that shifted you in terms of your I don't want to say dedication, but in terms of it's just another level to business, like you said, having to manage and deal with other people. How has that progression affected your yoga practice, as well as your transition from spaces and just in terms of the business flowing?
It's definitely tough lessons. Everyone can't go with you. That's
Hmm.
tough lessons, and you have to be able to be okay with that. And I think as a leader, you have to understand that you can lead, but so far. You can only lead people who want to be led.
Hmm.
And you be once again, that's one of the first laws in yoga. Be good to people, be good to people, and it'll always come back to you. Because when I tell you, my instructors, they've showed up. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They've showed up even if they didn't get paid for it, because maybe the class was so small. If they had one student, they were showing up, and it shows me that they understand there's work to be done. Because we have no idea what that one man or woman is going through, so we have to show
Yeah.
up. And under I think leaving room or creating room for people to understand if this is a passion for them and their purpose, and not telling them, okay, you're great at this, do it. I think I can only lead by example, and I'm very transparent. And I would say I just create room for them. You want to be a yoga instructor? Here's the studio. Here's your class. And it's up to you to lead, it's up to you to save lives, it's up to you to pour your heart and your soul in it. And it's not an easy task, because it took me, when you said in the beginning of the podcast, it's the instructor, it took me a year to find my voice.
Mm.
One year, that's when it snapped and was like, oh no, I'm really good at this. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yes, you
And I
are.
was just thank you. I was just trying to think before, but now,
Hmm.
and my heart was in it, but it was like, how do I show my
Yeah.
heart? So it took me a year, and that's all I'm doing for my instructors. I gotta create room, give room, make room, so that they can find their voice, because the people around me, they want to be there. The people that's
Yes.
in the studio, they want to be there, but it's not overnight we find our voice. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's not overnight that we find our tribe. And if I can keep the studio open long enough to get that, yeah, that's my job.
And you've got some incredible, incredible instructors. Another shout out to Dominique, who
Yes,
also came up with the kid. Oh, we went
right.
to dance school together. And to my baby Kayla, my soror, and to
Right.
Amani, it has been so beautiful to also see them grow in their practices and to be able to experience their classes and to grow with them, to have all of these incredible Black women involved in my personal growth, and then just also the experience that I'm able to share with my mom. That is something that is so so important to me, and I really really enjoy that as well. But being able to share that fellowship and share that community with these women, and also I was telling Jay the other day, it's like I got friends in the community now. Like I've made like people that I'm like, oh hey Mia, what's going on? How are
Yeah.
you? How's your sister? Like it's so good to see you. Or even just being the face that, oh, I've been in this class before, when somebody else is coming to class and they're new. Hey girl, welcome. Like, yeah, your mat's the right way. Don't worry about it. Have a good time. Or you did great today. Or see y'all next week or whatever. Like I enjoy
Yeah.
that. I
It
enjoy
feels like
being
dance school
friendly.
again.
Yeah, but like the good part of it. You know what I mean? Like the part that we actually fucked with. Shit. So so it feels so so good to do that. And another thing that I am so grateful for is these virtual classes, because one time I, what was it? I think I was in Rome. Rochelle, that was her name, Rochelle Peen. Hers was the class that I had gone to in the city, and that's when I realized the instructor matters for me. Like I ended up, I don't know if it wasn't necessarily like a trap yoga, but we did yoga with music that I listened to. And I
Hmm.
don't know if you notice when I'm doing yoga with you, like I will sing along and I will
You
sway.
be rocking. You
And
be
when I tell you,
rocking.
it gets me out of my head. If I focus on the lyrics and I focus on you, I'm not in my head, because I tend to think too much. Some not think too much, but think too much. And so I'll be, and and it especially clicked last week for me. It was just like you had said, like your body will do what you tell it to do. And so I just let that guide me. If I just listen to the song, we're gonna sing to Stevie, we're gonna sing to Anita, and we are
Right.
just going to move and just let the positions feel the way they need to feel, and remind myself that I can do it. And so just being able to do those things, and I brought up Rochelle again because I remember at one point she had a virtual option, and I was in Rome, and I remember tapping into one of her classes and I was just like, I gotta find this. I have to be able to, like, it feels so good to be able to tap into movement, like you were saying, in beautiful surroundings, in fresher air, in
Yeah.
locations that bring you that vigor, that invigorate you and excite you. And so you now have virtual options, which I've been asking for months.
But I
Thank you
have
so
even,
much for me.
I know, right? But I have even something even sweeter. So we're
Go
actually
for it.
going to be doing online classes, like on demand classes as well, right? So
Thank you.
even
I was
better.
talking about that with my mama. I was gonna give you some grace, and I was like, I'm gonna revisit that question a little bit later.
I got you,
Yeah.
girl. I got you. And that's another thing when we talk about going back to that entrepreneur, getting out of your own way. You know, it
Hmm.
was, I'm like, oh, more means more means more means more. But if I'm going to get this money and I'm going
Girl.
to have a larger outreach, right? I got to do
Hmm.
what I have to do. And D, you've been telling me, girl, get this online, get this. I heard you. I
Hmm.
heard you.
Because your community is so much bigger than right here in Queens.
Yeah.
And I know even Tila, hey boo, when we first started doing the classes in the park, she was coming out from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And so it's like she doesn't drive. So getting on the train like every week for a class is not exactly conducive. And she actually started doing Pilates. She's a Pilates mat instructor now. So hey boo,
Yay.
congratulations on that.
Congratulations.
But there are so many people that want to tap into movement and also just being mindful, especially like you were saying, you get off that plane, it's been a stressful ride. It's been, I don't know who you sat next to or what that experience was like. And I just hate airports, to be honest. So once you get out of there, to be able to ground yourself in movement is such a blessing. And so you've now got these options available to us with and then also with the time zone difference, the on demand classes are really going to be clutch. So this is the perfect time to mention that I will be doing sponsoring a giveaway for two virtual classes, virtual monthly classes. So two winners, and it is a virtual pass for a month to take any of the classes. And if you would do a rundown of like the options that you have available to people to take so that they'll know what they're eligible to win.
Yeah, so your virtual classes will consist of beginner flexibility. You'll have some vinyasa classes, level one, two, and three, some inversion classes. So if you ever wanted to play with standing on top of your head, you'll have restore and pray. So that's more of like a restorative class. Of course, we'll have to give you a list of like props that you need.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have splits class. We have chair yoga now, just in case, maybe had a little knee injury or whatever. You need
Hmm.
something very super low impact.
And for our
Um,
seniors, like for
yeah,
that's a great option
yeah,
for people that are disabled in whatever manner or just older and can't necessarily hit the floor and get back up.
yeah. And that's pretty much it. You'll have a versatility well, I shouldn't say versatility, but a variety once the studio actually open and we add more classes.
Hmm.
We'll have our yoga teacher training, so we'll be onboarding even more instructors now.
Nice.
We have the space and the time to do so. So look out for that.
So we are going to be posting a story uh, today, the Thursday that this airs, and share that story throughout the month. It will be valid through when did we say we are going to end the rest of the story? When is the winners will be announced the first Saturday in February. So throughout all of January, and when is the first, let me see when the first Saturday in February is. That might be helpful, right? January and February. The first Saturday of oh, check that out. February 1st. Perfect. Look at smooth math. So we'll announce the two winners on February 1st. So your virtual pass will be for whenever you activate your pass, but you will be notified February 1st if you have won. And the criteria is to share the story and tag the both of us. It'll be on Instagram because Instagram, simple, no rocket science. Share the story and tag both I Am Yogi. Is it I Am Yogi Studios or is it I Am Yogi?
I am Yogi Studios.
It's I Am Yogi Studios and Travel and Shit. And so those will be in the description box, but will also be tagged in the story so that you can more easily tag us. We're gonna make this very simple for you. So that'll be two winners. Each of you will win a monthly virtual pass. So wherever you are in community with us, you are eligible to join us. Oh, and you might even see me for a class because I'll be there on Saturday mornings, virtually. So, Lisa,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you so much. Again, I am so proud of you. Dom, I'm proud of you too because it takes a lot to be a supportive friend. And so thank you for and I love you too, girl. I love you both. You guys are so incredible. Thank you to I Am Yogi Studio. And Lisa, how can we support you?
You can, a number of things. We have so much going on. I would say if you can get there at the grand opening at 9 o'clock on January 25th, make sure you follow us, subscribe to our newsletters to get more information. We are doing a fundraiser, and you can find that on our website, www.iamyogistudios.com. There's no small contribution, nothing too least for us. We have some work to do, so we're looking forward to that. And show up to the class, get your passes, unlimited passes is very affordable. So just be there and be a part of the community. That's how you can support.
So all those links, especially to the fundraiser, will be in the description box. And again, travel is so much more than vacation. It is the ways that we interact with the world, and now we know how we practice yoga throughout our lives. Lisa, thank you again, and I look forward to seeing y'all with me next week.
Yes,
And
thank you for having
bye.
me. Bye.